Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Faga Muradian here at the Excel Center in London, covering the 20th anniversary edition of DSEI, one of the world's truly great defense and security exhibitions. Our coverage here is sponsored by L3Harris and Leonardo DRS, and we're partnered with Clarion Events, the organizer of this great exhibition and many others around the world. And we're working with the UK Department of International Trade's Defense and Security Organization to bring you the very best in defense and security coverage. And we're here on the Dell stand right now to talk to Mike Nayler, who is the director of the defense sector here at Dell in the United Kingdom, and my good friend, Group Captain Blythe Crawford, who is at RAF Leeming now. You were in Washington, D.C. For a while on the defense team there, and you are the home of the Defense Innovation Hub, which is a pretty cool thing. Blythe, talk to us a little bit about the Defense Innovation Hub. You know, I mean, one of the most outstanding things about this show has been seeing the progress that UK Defense has been making on innovating across each and every single one of the services. And now you have a Chief of Defense Staff and the Vice Chief of Defense Staff who are innovation-oriented. They've picked service chiefs that are innovation-oriented, and they themselves, reaching down into their services, have put a whole bunch of innovative people. You know, we also talked to Rocky Rochelle, who is, I think, considered an innovator of the first order as well. Talk to us about the Innovation Hub and what you guys are trying to accomplish.
So some of this is built off my previous knowledge from working over in the States, where we were responsible for developing the innovation strategy for the US Air Force. We recognize the fact that in today's world, the only constant you have is change. So how do we keep pace with the technology that's out there, with the change that's going on in terms of information management, in terms of the internet, in terms of space and cyber? And one of the ways to do that is, okay, let's look at how we innovate more effectively in defense, looking at it both top-down and bottom-up to improve our day-to-day business practices, but also to take on some of those key challenges that face defense in the future, such as things like agile command and control, etc. In terms of what we are trying to do at Leeming, we are running RAF Experimental, which is the RAF's sandpit, so to speak, in terms of let's take our ideas and turn them into tangible output. One of the things I found, and some of the lessons I took from a previous experience, was that you need time, space, education, training, leadership buy-in, and resource. And time is one of the ones that's the biggest challenge. People say they don't have time to try new processes, don't have time to innovate, because they're caught in a time where they're still using old processes to tackle new problems. So what I want to try and do is build time into people's days so that they can then go and innovate and come up with new processes and work in a much more efficient and effective way. The education and training bit is something that people tend to forget about. This is not just us going away and throwing some innovation fairy dust on something. There are processes and procedures you can follow to de-risk solutions early on in the process and thereby do it a lot more cheaply and a lot more effectively. So I'm pushing very hard to educate and change the culture across the service to allow people to innovate more effectively and come up with more productive and efficient solutions to the challenges we have today.
And I want to get back to that, but Mike, I want to bring you in, right? Industry, very, very important piece of it. We heard from Chief of Defense Staff's General Sir Nick Carter and Stephen Lovegrove about the importance of that kind of a partnership. Talk to us about how you're partnering with Blythe and the team at Leeming to drive this innovation process forward.
Yeah, so our partnership with the RAF and with Blythe and what we're doing there in Leeming is really to bring through some of those new technologies and really to understand how they're going to benefit the processes that Blythe was talking about, how we're going to make those processes simpler, how can we bring more value through as well. The old days of being able to change our systems every 10 years just doesn't work for us. We're not keeping ahead of the game if we're doing that. So what Dell Technologies can do is bring our understanding and knowledge of the wider market spaces, what's going on in pharmaceuticals, what's going on in financials, those kind of things, bring that to the defense market with new products, new technologies, and work together in partnership to come up with new ideas and new ways of working.
And I should have said you're a Foreign and Commonwealth Office, so you're an FCO veteran as well, having done your service to the nation. Blythe, when you were talking about, I think you're absolutely right, that everybody has a tendency of focusing on the top line. We have some headline goal we want to do. We're going to look for that innovative system to try to do that instead of digging deep and actually doing the really hard work, which is changing education and culture fundamentally around which innovation really is built. And it's really, really welcome that you were talking about space to think, because actually if you look at a lot of other general and flag officers or even senior government officials, their days get programmed to such minute increments that they actually have no free space to actually think about anything.
Yeah.
And if your job at that level is to do thinking, that's a bit of the problem. How do you arrange the incentives, you organize people's schedules? There's a tendency of thinking like, well, the person who's in at 5 o'clock in the morning and the last one to leave at 8 o'clock is the one who's actually the most productive and the hardest worker, which is actually a complete misnomer. How are you working and prototyping and experimenting and trailblazing, if you will, the right ways to actually organize to create that kind of environment that others can emulate in their commands, right? I mean, you're a bit of the guinea pig part of this thing.
Yes,
At the end
you've got to start somewhere, and the opportunities that exist, given the diversity of people that I have working across the station, given the diversity of their thought processes, their backgrounds, their experiences, means that we have a fantastic opportunity to form what we call cross-functional teams. So you bring in that diversity of thought into solving a problem that maybe has been stovepiped in the past. So one of the ways we're trying to do this at Leeming at the moment is I'm setting up a permanent sort of innovation team who are trained up in those processes and can drive people through that process. Then I looked across the ecosystem of what we had, identify issues and problems that we need to solve, bring in cross-functional teams to run sprints against those processes, and then use methodologies like the Lean Startup to try and take that through, develop a minimum viable product, which we can then beta test against the rest of the ecosystem before then refining it and then rolling it across the rest of the services if it's successful.
Talk to us of the process you're using on the corporate side as the customer starts to accelerate in terms of their cycles, how you guys are working to accelerate and match that speed.
Yeah, very much.
Or help push them along in terms of speed.
Yeah, I understand. So we firmly believe that work is something you do, not somewhere you go. And that's really where Dell Technologies comes in to enable the ability to work wherever you want to work and have access to the data that you need at that time in a most effective way. So that's the sort of journey of having the right tool sets, the right capabilities, but also the right accesses to multi-clouds. Being able to access whichever cloud your data happens to be sitting in at that particular time, you want to access that. It doesn't mean you have to go to a particular office or a particular station to be able to do that. You want to be able to do that from your car, from your home, or from Costa Coffee down the road.
Well, let me follow up because we've been talking to a lot of executives across industry on this. So at the time that CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, and Lovegrove both made that statement, hey, we want a closer partnership between industry and government in order to do this, right? I mean, on the defense side, that process is going, but that process is only half as successful if you're not marshaling all the strength of industry on that. On the other hand, there are some questions about that, right? Guys saying, well, look, I'm a first-tier innovator, but the trouble is if I bring a great idea to Blythe, he's going to go, boy, that's a really great idea. We're going to develop it, then there's going to be a requirement, and then when it's competed, actually, one of the big primes can swoop in and take this really, really great idea out from under you. And as an industry executive, you're not going to invest in a lot of money into something where there's a very uncertain future. You can't say, well, hey, 10 of you develop all the best ideas, bring it to me, and I may buy one of them. That's one of the criticisms that happened with the U.S. Army's process on developing new technology, those battle experiments that they were doing. Oftentimes folks were like, I've spent quite a lot of money developing this technology, are you guys going to actually buy it? From the standpoint of a key defense player in this market that is on the software and on the computing side of things, what do you want to see in a successful partnership? What's the advice that you're going to pass on to the department as they try to streamline their thinking on this so that your equities are met, but also, say, Blythe from a uniform perspective is satisfied as well?
Okay, so I think that the partnership word is key. And what that is about creating not just a one-way partnership, which is what we've had in the past. What we want is a very circular partnership. So Blythe and his team are saying, here's the things we want to be doing, not now, but in the future. Here's where we want to get to. This is how we're going to want to use our data, how we're going to want to fuse that data together, so that we can invest our R&D dollars in coming up with the right solutions for 3 years' time. And then those solutions are coming back to Blythe in that time frame where he can say, this is exactly what we need. We're not going to get it right every time. Always, you're going to try things, you're going to do 3 or 4 things, and maybe only 2 or 3 will come off. But you absolutely have to try. But getting that partnership of working together to say, this is where we think we're going, and going on that journey together.
And that's really important because in the past, traditionally some of the primes have come to you with, here's our great product, let us try and sell it to you. we end up with an 80% solution, which we're then constantly upset with and not getting what we want. If we follow a user-centric design process where we are involved in that development the whole way through, and actually into part of that requirements process is a continual dialogue, so that we're not setting a requirement and then you get it delivered 3 years down the line and it's not what you want. By having that user-centric design built from the very beginning, it means then that you both work collaboratively together to get the product that you want at the end of the day. And it's wider than just the industry bit. You know, we're looking at academia as well, and like, how do we encourage that entire ecosystem to work collaboratively together to provide the solutions that we need?
Mike, let me bring you in also on the computing side of things, because you guys, you know, I'm here talking to you about RAF innovation just because I happen to see both of you standing here at the same time, and I thought I would impose myself yet again on Blythe and his generosity with his time. Talk to us, give us sort of the elevator brief on some of the ruggedized computer products you guys have, which has some of the core attributes, obviously, for any of the products that you have on the commercial marketplace, where you guys pride yourself on innovation and durability, but take it to the next level and then add entirely different levels of encryption and security that's important to a military customer.
Absolutely. So we have the standard range of ruggedized devices you would expect, everything from tablet through to a full-scale rugged laptop. We also have the rugged server, and of course all of these products are shock and vibe tested. They're all certified for use by the military, and that's really, really important, because you have to be confident in the kit that you've got when you're out on the ground. So that's imperative to us. So simple things like being able to use the screen with gloves on. The guys don't want to glove off to be able to use their PC and glove back on. Those kind of very simple things, but those are the things that we do in partnership with the MOD customer. We wouldn't necessarily know about those things unless we had that dialogue. So understanding those kind of needs, making sure that those are met in future versions of our kit, that's really important to us.
And then, of course, to be able to handle the latest generation of GCHQ cyber keys and everything else that go with all of these platforms.
That's right. So we have full range, including tempest-proof, with encryption drives, those sorts of things. And we're doing that with some really key partners as well across the SME community within UK business.
Mike Nayler, the defense lead for Dell in the United Kingdom, and my friend, Group Captain Blythe Crawford at RAF Leeming, where the RAF Royal Air Force Innovation Hub is. Guys, thanks very, very much. Very cool SAFA tie, by the way. Very cool RAF tie. And I just have to point out, coolest boots in the place. Although I think Alex Walmsley might give you a run for the money. Did you see her? Really, really cool. She's got lovely teal boots. But you have also got a Stetson that goes with that, don't you?
Obviously, for my time in the States, I embraced the American culture, Vago, as you know, and I've got a full set of Stetsons and belt buckles to match.
Well done. You can carry it off well.
Thank you very much.
All the very best of luck, and hopefully we can come up to Leeming on one of our next visits and visit you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so very much. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you.